Hey everybody, welcome to this live stream for Toon Boom. We are on Twitch and also on YouTube, so pick your favorite. I don't recommend watching both at the same time. It's not gonna be very very useful. Um, but yeah, so welcome to this stream. My name is Mel. It's also Marie-Ève or Z Birdbrain, depending on how you know me as. And I am joined today with the amazing David Liu, who's gonna introduce himself right now. Yay!
Hello, I'm David. I draw a lot of cartoons and anime and do illustrations and animation and art direction. Thank you for having me. I was chatting with Marie on little while back about using Toon Boom Harmony for the game that we're trying to make.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing all of that for animation. And I was planning on trying to get into some of that work today, which it's going to be interesting trying to lock in and also chit chat at the same time.
Yeah, it's never easy doing that. That's why, like, usually when I do these live streams, like people come to my streams are like, "Oh, but you're always doing cleanup or rigging," and I'm like, "Yeah, but that's the easy thing I can do when I talk to you guys, right? When it's animation, sometimes a bit more involved, and you know, no one wants to see me just redo the same drawing 5 times."
And see, I considered like, oh, maybe I can just do some cleanup on some of the animation frames I have already, but then I remembered there were some things that I wanted to adjust and address and figure out, and then also like adding an in between. So I'm like, wait, maybe it's not a good time to do it. I should just do regular animation. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that you're joining us today because talking about making games in Harmony is such a cool subject, but it's also not a subject that everyone can talk about because it's a bit less popular than using it for TV and movies. But
Is it? Maybe.
well, I mean, there's more series and movies coming out than games in terms of numbers. So, yeah.
No, you're right. Everybody's in 3D animation and stuff, and part of me thinks like, man, I should have picked up 3D modeling so I can,
I can teach you the basics. But it's funny because when I started at Toon Boom, one of the one of the things I was doing, no, even prior to being hired, like I knocked at Toon Boom. Well, I called different, but I was like, I want to make a game with harmony. They were like, why? I was like, just let me do it. And they're like, okay. So that was like years, like more than that was how many years ago? So
I
many
mean,
years ago.
I still have friends that still use Photoshop for just animation, for sprites and raster animation for game development too, which I'm like, how? I don't even.
How?
I
Yeah,
tried
that's
learning
like
that like 20 years ago or 15 years ago, and I was like, I don't know, this is for me.
and it's crazy how far harmonies come since it began like dabbling into being used for games.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what we're going to talk about very soon. But before we get into that, I keep forgetting my manners. Stream rules that I always have to say. Remember to be polite. We're not going to break any NDAs. So don't ask us any weird questions. And the content is will be available on our YouTube channel in like a couple days. So if it's not there like tomorrow, just be patient. And yeah, I'm here also to check out the chat. So we're gonna try to answer your questions if we can. If we see that the questions are too like unrelated to the subject, I might skip them. And yeah, otherwise it should be very fun. And thank you guys for joining. And let's get started.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm not going to be doing any crazy, I guess, harmony tech because I'm pretty basic. So
No, that's totally fine. That's
I'm gonna have
totally okay.
moments of planning and plotting on figuring out which new animation set I feel like adding in.
The stream is called Gaming Art Stream with David in Marie-Ève. It's not called Marie-Ève Goes Crazy on Nodes. Would be okay. That could be interesting though. So yeah, very important question. What's your favorite color?
Probably black. I think if I had a color that I couldn't live without, it would be black things.
I mean, it goes with everything. So
yeah, I don't know.
and just little things just to get started, like, where did you study? Like, how did you learn animations? Everybody's journey is very different, and I'm always curious about that.
Yeah, my experiences with animation were um, self-taught, pretty much. I was drawing at a cafe in Austin. I think, geez, I was like early mid 20s,
Uh-huh.
so almost 20 years ago, and there was an artist there that was also working on his own animation project. And at the time, I don't even think Toon Boom existed, or it was in the very, very early stages. Um, and so he had worked on Scanner Darkly. His name's Evan Cagle, and he worked on Scanner Darkly as a lead animator because they had a studio based in Austin. So he saw me doodling on literally typing paper with a ballpoint pen, and he kept walking by, and I
The
was like,
good
"What's this
old
guy doing?"
days.
Yeah, the old days before iPads and stuff. And yeah, so he saw what I was working on, and we chatted for a while. He showed me his project, and he was like, "I'm an animator and illustrator, and trying to get this like quick trailer together for this passion project of mine." And yeah, so he started teaching me some animation. I think we were using what is now called TV Paint. I think it was called something else back in the
Yeah,
day.
probably.
Yeah, it was weird. He had to like plug in a USB key to his laptop and stuff to
The
use it.
dongles,
A
the era of
dongle.
the dongles.
Yeah. So yeah, he taught me some basics. I did some like really really terrible animations on for like some background NPC crowd filling characters that I was so excited of at the time because I was like, they're moving, they're real. I can do anime now.
Yeah, it's a
It
big
was so
step.
exciting. But yeah, and then from there you know the project was pitched. And I don't think it went anywhere. And then I got into a game development studio and was hired for animation work. And so at that point, we were using the ancient old Toon Boom Animate 3, I think it was what it
Oh
was
my
called.
god, I used that in the past.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
think the biggest upgrade was that now there was aliasing on or anti-aliasing on the lines being drawn versus them feeling like bitmaps.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think I remember that.
But we did a whole production with that, and it was kind of crazy. I mean, all the core key animation things. So I think using that, oh man, that was interesting because now that we have color and line work mode and the other different sub layers in Toon Boom, I
Uh-huh.
think all we could do was just duplicate the line work layer and then color it below, I believe. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact process, but
It's
yeah,
been
no,
forever for
self-taught,
me too.
lots of struggle. I still, and I don't know if this goes for anybody that's classically trained too, but I mean, I still get tons of imposter syndrome. I could spend the whole day just gawking at everyone's amazing animations, both in like video games and television and film, and so it's
But that's such an important point because I mean, just like if people are listening, like
hmm,
I hope you guys are hearing that David gets imposter syndrome. I get imposter syndrome. Everybody gets it.
yep,
And I think one thing that does help me sometimes like get over it is yes, there's always someone who's going to be better than you at whatever things you're thinking of at the moment. But also think of everyone else that you are better at it too. And that person and that like everyone else includes you a few months ago, right? So um like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't know these things, or like I'm freaking useless about that subject. And I was like, but I definitely know more than I knew last year. So like,
yep.
you're always like try to look at what you've accomplished rather than what you don't have. It's
It's
very
all
hard, but it
the
does
little
help me.
victories.
Yeah, but it's so hard. I completely understand what you're talking about. Um, yeah, I don't think there is a cure for imposter syndrome. I think we all get
No,
it.
it's it's definitely still there, and I used to think it was because I didn't go to school or I don't do animation as often. I don't full time animation all the time.
Me
Um,
neither.
yeah, there's a lot of other things like directing or course, I've been feeling like I've been doing a lot more corresponding as of late. I think a good chunk of the day feels like I'm just responding to people's messages or checking emails or something, which is interesting.
And that's another very important part. I was at Lightbox some weeks ago, and meeting so many amazing inspired artists or like students just starting out, and it's like, oh yeah, I want to direct a project so that I can draw every day. I'm like, I mean, yes, but like directing anything is also handling a lot of people and a lot of factors and communicating and writing messages. And I hear, oh no, no, I'm not good at all that. I'm not good at talking to people. I'm like, well, I mean, if you're gonna direct, work on those skills. And yeah, because I guess by working on the game that we're gonna talk about in a minute, I guess you have like so many things to handle and people to talk to and stuff to manage.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of skills to train. But speaking about the games, can you tell us a little bit about your project and how you came around to make it?
Yeah, I've always kind of I started it started off as a game design document, which is the game has changed since then, but it was kind of writing
Like the
the
one
sort of
pager thing?
no, I think my game design document is probably like 24 pages long.
Okay, the big thing. Okay, because
The big
there's
thing,
always like
yeah.
the single page kind of pitch
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you build and then you flesh it out. Okay, so you had it all fleshed out. Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's messy now, and I probably need to rewrite it. I probably can cut it down to like 15 or 10 pages. Now that there's a lot of trial and error. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in the game industry for 10 plus years, but it's mostly been from the art side. So and that was like doing concept art and animation, then texture work, and art directing. Um,
So
and
you've been
then
around everywhere a little bit into the gaming industry, and that's probably
yeah,
pretty helpful for your project.
yeah, as far as like production and stuff goes, like I don't get invited too often for production work. It's usually either in the very beginning for viz dev, or it's at the very end where they already have it figured out and they need key
Uh-huh.
art. And so that's been a really cool thing in the past like 5 years, is meeting a bunch of indie game developers that have their own game, and they either want like a boost on social or they want like box art, and the aesthetic that they're going for matches the aesthetics that I usually go for with artwork. And so that's been really cool. Like I think today there was a an old revival Metal Slug game that came out that just got released today that I did key art for, and I've been doing
Oh,
key art
that's so
for the
cool.
past couple of years, which is like a really nice full circle bucket list kind of thing, because that was a game that had great animation that I saw as a kid that inspired me a ton in the 90s.
Getting to work on project that inspired you is so special.
Yes, 100%. It's if
It
there's any
doesn't
kind
happen
of
all
like
the time.
goals to hit, it's always that
Yeah.
one. But yeah, the
Um,
yeah, so with this I started with the game design document, ended up being really long, and so there's a ton of trial and error involved. Like I had a full the idea I had for this game was it being kind of like a run and gun, but then also like a beat 'em up.
okay.
And everything would be 2D, hand animated with like painted backgrounds and stuff, which it's still going to be that. But we found that the melee combat with the sort of Contra style shooting gameplay was too black and white. It was like really fast and frenetic, and then also got really slow. And then
Oh
it's like, well,
yeah.
why do we need to have to slow down for this, or should we speed it up? And so I think we found a happy medium last week, after discussing with my partner and engineer, and he I think we got to a good middle ground to where we can keep things pretty fast and frenetic, but that also just means I have a lot more work I need to redo. So,
Oh,
but it's like all for the better, and so I'm trying to wrap my head around now about like which facet of this I want to like dive into, because I know that we're going to need these things. Oh
wait, are you
no.
saying that we don't get it right from the first get-go?
No
What?
way. I
What?
had to rewrite that whole document
Sometimes
too.
we have to do work again? What?
Again.
What? I never heard of that.
Let me see. Okay. I think it's
And
sticking out. No.
for your project, why did you? Because I mean, it might be a game, but it still tells a story and has like brilliant character in them, like in lore. Like, why did you go for a game and not a like linear animated production?
Oh man, I thought about a lot of it.
Or comic or whatever, right? Because
Oh
it
yeah,
could have been
so I'm
something
working on a
huge.
comic now. Um, that's kind of been the other thing I'm juggling with the game. I actually am connected with a writer that we've been kind of working away at the sort of overlying lore, story, plot, and then also getting scripts and outlines together for a potential volume.
Uh huh.
And the reason why I didn't want to go into any like say like like the storyboards that you do like storyboard jams like once or twice a year.
Uh huh.
I thought about doing something like that and getting like voice acting involved, but I wasn't 100% behind the little writing that I had, and so I didn't want to like invest that time um,
Oh
while
yeah,
like
yeah, I
second
get it.
guessing myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Let me see. So my I had to resize my screen so you guys can actually see what I'm working on because it was at 4K, but now my Cintiq is unaligned.
Oh
So
no,
I need to see if I can reset it real fast.
hate when that happens. In the meantime, I'm gonna take a look at the different chats because maybe there's questions that I can answer. Let's see. Let's see. Well, a lot of people are happy to see you.
Yay!
We have like Space Goddess is like, oh, it's David. I know them. Yay! And
She's great.
she's pretty cool.
She's pretty cool. You know them.
I do know them.
Hmm.
um. Oh, someone's asked, what if we're all imposters? Every one of us.
No kidding, right?
Who knows? Uh,
Okay. I'm trying to think how to reset this from 4K, or I can just put it back at 4K.
because I think we could see.
You just won't be able to read the text, but that's all. It's all.
Yeah, but we could see just fine. The drawings were all okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me pause my stream for a
Uh
second.
huh.
Now I need to figure out how to pause the stream. Bum, bum, bum. Share screen with others. Okay. All right. Am I hidden temporarily?
Um.
Yes. Okay. Display settings 4K.
So there's like Matt Watts art. Matt Watts art. Yeah. Oh, Matt. That's Matt Watts. Matt Watts art. No, I get it. I was like, wait, I know that person now. Okay. They ask, is this the first game you are making in Harmony, David?
So I worked on something else. Oh no, it's still doing the thing. Okay, I gotta reset it. I've worked on a game with Harmony. It's an NDA title years ago
Ooh.
that we got all the way up to like a vertical slice, but I don't think it went anywhere else. I think we're hoping it does, but it was all hand animated sprites and characters. But we were working with Unity, which
Did a thing.
yeah, which was actually they speak together really well. Like it's like a one button press kind of situation in Toon Boom, and it just exports straight out to Unity. And so that made that process really simple because I could just work in a work file for like say one character and do all their animations there, hit the export button, go to Unity, update, and then it would just boom be done. This process now we're working in Unreal Engine, and there's not I don't think there's a way for both the programs to directly speak to each other that would take, I guess,
Not
Epic
that I know
Games
of,
to
no.
chat with Toon Boom and be like, hey, let's work together. But I don't know if or when that would happen because they're mostly known for their 3D stuff. But the engineer partner, he is an expert in Unreal and has been using it for over a decade. And so we're like, cool, let's just stick with this, and maybe we can get into a 3D game later on. And so we're doing kind of more old fashioned to where I just do exports of PNGs, and currently my animation is set like on threes, or yeah. So we're animating it. My work file is set to 8 frames per second for its frame rate. So it's basically around threes. The game runs at 60, and so I'm not sure what the math that he's doing for that, but let me restart driver. Okay. Sorry, almost done with my troubleshooting.
It's all okay. And there's another question that I can answer, so you're all good for take your time fixing your stuff. Because Matt also asks, um, I'm curious of how many 2D Harmony games are being made, and is it more commonly used is it more commonly being used for phone apps or for console games? So I don't have the exact number for you because we do not spy on people using our software, so we don't know what people are making with it. But what I can tell you is that there is more games made in Harmony than you might think, because oftentimes if you don't play a game like when people market a game, they're not gonna say like, "Oh, we animated this with Harmony," or like, "We animated this with
I mean,
Photoshop."
I
Or
do.
well,
I
I mean, I
mentioned
do too,
it.
but it's just not like it's not part of the marketing thing. Like you're not gonna watch um a trailer and they'll be like, "We made this in Flash."
Right.
And oftentimes, like games are such a big mix of different softwares, right? So there is a lot of game made with Harmony, but like it's also made with other things like Unreal, Unity. Um, Sometimes you're going to use like Harmony for the characters, and you're going to use Flash for the effects because it depends on who's used to what, right?
Hmm.
Um, but there is a lot of games that are made with Harmony. I wish I could find the list though. Um,
I think I
I
can
know
tell
Thunder.
usually
Yeah,
by the line work.
me too.
So because I feel like anybody that does their animation stuff in Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, I guess, for game assets, it's very obvious because they use brushes, like they're clearly raster brushes.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I can usually tell. I think there's this one horror game I think that's all fully 2D animated. It looks like a Disney cartoon. I'm pretty sure it's Toon Boom. It has to be.
Yeah, and sometimes I think so, but like it's not confirmed anywhere, so it's very hard to tell. But I know for sure that the games that Thunder Lotus makes are made
Mm.
with Harmony because we've interviewed them so much before, and I
Oh, they're great. I love their
helped them
work.
out, and they're amazing team.
I'm curious what their next game is going to be now.
Oh my
Now
god,
that
me too.
Spirit Fair is done, we did the announcement trailer animation for that game,
Yeah, some
and
years ago, it
also,
was so
yeah,
lovely.
and also in Toon Boom Harmony. So full circle.
But that is something that is really like noteworthy because the game was made in Harmony, well, with Harmony, but the
Yep.
trailer for the game, like, and we're talking about Thunder Lotus game.
Hmm.
I'll share a link later for the chat who might not know what the heck we're talking about. So Spiritfarer, beautiful game, was made using Harmony, and the trailer as well was made using the same software. And that is why back then, when I was when I was making a game, we wanted to use it for games because we're like we can make our promo art or trailers. We can keep everything in the same environment, the same software, and that was very very useful for us. Not to have to handle so many different things and be
Yes.
able to use like the power of vectors and raster together. Lovely. Okay, I'm gonna check the questions on Twitch. Um,
Are you checking both chats? Is that your job
yep,
now?
yep. I'm
Wow.
cross-eyeing these two chats, and we're all good.
Yeah.
So, I have to ask, what is your favorite thing so far about your project. Like, what is your kind of favorite task to, like, art task to do on it?
Um, I think I like coming up with the rough animations that we need. And that's been really satisfying. Yeah, that's been like the most fun so far. Um, because if I catch my engineer like on a day where we're both kind of working at it, then he can come up with an idea. And I was like, okay, let's try a double jump. And so I'll do like this really rough double jump animation, which I can show you guys right here. Yeah, like we had a jump, and so now we have a double jump.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
love
like you can
doing the
see
double.
the sort of rough tie down, and then it goes into like scribble scrabble. And so I had, oh yeah, I can show you that too. I have different versions of it. This was version one. Let's see, start, finish, right
The
here.
poses are so dynamic and so nice to see.
Thanks. Yeah, so it comes out really rough.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, let's see how that feels. And then it's like, oh, it feels good, but maybe,
That is so extra.
yeah.
I love it.
And so we tightened it up because we were going to save that one for a different playable character that's more acrobatic. And so hers is more of a
Oh,
roll.
that's cool too. That's really cool.
And so in motion, it feels really cool. Like when you're, it's so interesting doing this because in game animation, you don't animate like in a scene composition. You animate,
In the square.
yeah, in a square, and it kind of has to stay in the same spot. But then in the actual game, there's a ton of movement. So let me find. I can show you how we broke down the jump animations, which I think is pretty basic for kind of everybody. But let's see. Okay, so this is the bottom half, as you can see. This was they're on the ground standing, um, and this is all just kind of like keys, so there's no in betweens of like jumping off the ground or anything. But
Hmm.
overall, the grid setup here is kind of like at a 2K square, 2000 by 2000, um, which I think arbitrarily can be kind of whatever square version as long as you export it correctly. The
Yeah, but
grid is
and also
kind of,
you're working in a raster, so you do have to be careful.
yeah,
But if you guys are making a game in vector, as long as it's a square, you can always resize it later, so it doesn't really matter.
exactly. And that's been like the biggest thing here too. And I can go through. I'm still having like weird issues with my drawing stuff, so I can I guess go through my animation work file and we can kind of discuss.
Because you
Um,
can shrink stuff, but you
yeah,
can't make it larger. So working
yeah,
as a, at a 2000 is not a bad idea.
yeah. So so what we have here. So I have these squares here. That's just kind of my basic idea. Like these big chunks here are kind of where she's going to be shooting, and it kind of gives me an idea of where to try to keep things. Definitely not like exactly very cardinal with its directions, but that's fine. We'll deal with that when see how it feels, and if it feels wrong, then I'll make adjustments to the artwork. But if the gameplay that we're going for fits with the art, then we'll stick with that. So yeah, so this is the bottom half here. This is I think her rising up. This is hitting the peak of her jump,
Mm-hmm.
which is these two frames, and then the falling. Oh no, yeah, this is the falling. Peak, falling, land or ground contact, and then it resets back to normal. So let me see if I have. Maybe I already deleted all of her jumping animations out of this work file. So that's the jumping breakdown. The running ones. Oh yeah. Oh, actually, let's go here. So I'm ridiculous. I have different animation sets for um, her movement. And so she has like her traditional kind of running animation, which I can show you that first.
So nice.
So she has her run. Oh, let me stop it. So I'm gonna clean everything. For some reason, ends up being like about 6 frames. It's been like my magic number.
The grid that we see at the bottom, not the bottom, like there's like these four rectangles right next to each other where her foots are. It's just to keep track of like her speed in the game, like so that you make sure that the foots don't slide that much.
Yeah, we actually sped it up a bit. We sped up her animation and her movement speed a bit, so it feels a little bit more frenetic. Yeah, pretty much. This is kind of like my safe square for where she's going to stand. Basically, it's going to be kind of where her feet will be standing. So I think usually you don't want their feet too spread far apart because if they come up to like a ledge, they'll
Yeah,
be
because it needs to
hanging
stay
off.
within the bounding box.
Yep. There'll still be weird visual glitches and stuff, but yeah, for the most part, just tries to keep me grounded as far as like where to play in. So that's that animation set there, and I think she has. I don't even know if I have her running animations in this one for shooting, because this was her locomotion.
If you want, after it could be nice to get a little tour of your grid system that you guys have because it looks really nice. And I like myself some well organized people.
I don't know if I'm well organized, but yeah,
I
sure.
think you are. Oh,
So
you've been
let's see.
surprised by the besties I've seen.
Okay, deal. All right, so where are you? There you are. Now we can talk about like the different nodes and stuff. So this is, let's see, lock animation, neutral, move forward. Here we go. So this animation set, I have her in a different sort of stance. So it slows her movement down and she can move forward and backward at a slower speed. And so it's more of like
Uh-huh.
a side shimmy, like in a fighting game or something. But because we have all these cool nodes, I can actually reuse the same animation and make tweaks. And so we have a version of it walking backwards here.
So you keep the
This
same
work
torso
is
with different legs in a way?
pretty much, yeah. So let's see.
Smart.
So this is the moving back one. So I still reanimated the top half. You can kind of see the difference here with like the lean past the center point line. So she leans back here, but I'm able to actually.
Okay, yeah, you're using pegs for those. That is
Yep.
pretty
Yeah.
nice
So if I
to
turn
see.
off the pegs, it gets really. But yeah, see,
Safe.
like she's not moving her body.
But that is so smart, and it's such a cool thing to see because oftentimes um, artists will often assume that they have to do something either um, with rigs, fully or fully hand drawn. I'm like, well, hybrid exists, and it's actually pretty useful. I like to animate hand drawn, but I use a lot of pegs where I can because it just gives that little boost to your animation that is very nice and very
Yep.
malleable. So
Yep.
don't be afraid to
100%.
mix techniques, folks.
Yeah, the so notes here still it lets me give them a bit of a bounce. And so people asked on Instagram like if I was separating the torso and body, and we initially did that for our earlier builds, but then there was a lot of desyncing issues.
Oh no,
So we
that's
ended up
dangerous.
yeah, so we ended up just kind of keeping it all together because I was like I don't think there's going to be an instance where we're going to be running um and having to reset the feet animation because I think we simplified a lot of our design approach with what was
And
working.
also, often when I do these kind of animation, I would do it with a peg, for example, for the rough, and then when you trace it back in the final line, then I do most things on. I'll take like things on the same layer, but being
Mm.
able to play with the pegs is great when you're like experimenting with it, I guess.
Yes. Let me see here. I can go through our shooting one. Let's see.
Yeah,
Export gun.
because I see these diagonal kind of like cylinder, like a rectangle on your grid in the back. Is this like to kind of see where they would aim or something?
Yeah, yeah, and it's pretty janky and wonky. I don't think we'll be needing a lot of super specific finite aiming for the kind of game that we're making.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I mean, obviously, it would be great if I could set up something where what something that you can do in the 3D game where you have like full 360-degree
Yeah, because like
movement and aiming.
you can kind of get the gun like in a inverse kinematics way that's gonna like
Hmm.
follow something, but we can't do that in
I
2D
mean,
that easy.
yeah, I mean, I could probably try and force it with a mix of nodes and also just a ton of in betweens, but I'm
But
like trying to decide if I hate myself that
do
much
you?
or not.
Yeah, like do you need it? Like choose your battles.
Yeah. So this is the same animation that I was showing you here, but she after the player shoots their gun, then they'll have their gun out while they're animating, and then if you don't shoot again, she'll go back to her sort of unarmed pose. Um, but for this
Very nice.
animation, let's see, we got moving forward. Oh, this one is actually more organized. I see I have it all color coordinated. And
I think that's the animation I saw before. I really liked it. It was like cautiously walking, but I have also a big gun. So good.
yeah, so there's like one aiming forward and then one aiming up, aiming down.
It's so
And
nice
then,
how you get to also use the hair to make it super dynamic. Super nice.
yeah, and
It
it's
poses.
obviously just like very very cheaty sort of transforming stuff because it's still roughs right now, so we can work into the magic of like tracing over the same lines that makes it feel alive in 2D animation, which I feel, I mean, at scale for the game, they're going to be pretty small. So I honestly think even my rough animations are, she's going to be essentially like this big. So it's going to be
Yeah. And
a
that's
pretty
something
small
super
sprite.
important to note as well. Like
Yes.
when we do art for games and for TV animation, there's a lot of differences, and that is one of them. Um, uh,
So
I'm
this is
hypnotized by the animation.
this is the same one here moving back.
Love it.
So it's taking the same animations I had from before, but then putting different pegs on it. And so here
I
you can
see.
see like there's no movement whatsoever. It gives them a
It
bounce.
makes such a big difference. Love it. Um,
Yeah, small tweaky things.
but yeah, some
Um,
people, especially like students, don't always fully understand the reality of working for like video game characters and design and animation. Um, and there is a lot of not restriction, but things that are different. So on a TV, oftentimes people are going to watch it like on big screen, and they're going to see the character like bigger. But
mhm.
in a so you wanted like there's more details, more fine tuning and stuff. But when you're in a game, you guys have to remember, just like David was showing us here, the character is going to be smaller in the
Yes.
screen. So oftentimes it's I think it's more about like the whole shape and the negative space and keeping it dynamic more than having micro movements in the eyes.
Yeah. And the level of detail and stuff. Like, do I need to draw in all of her belt buckle details or belt loops or anything like that? Um, and so I was actually purposely drawing with a larger brush
To
for this one,
avoid
just
like
exactly to keep it a bit more streamlined.
that's a good trick.
Oh yeah, so we're back to the jumping thing, and then because we have different aiming directions, there's the neutral, and then there's aiming forward. Yeah, and then turning off the peg, it gets all broken. It's just funny looking. And so I think a lot of the effects here will be from actual VFX animation that'll layer on top of the gun, which may
Beautiful.
help mitigate having to animate recoil and separating the upper body. The good thing is though is that I can keep all the animations separated with them, and the exports just be clean sprites. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, same situation there. Let me think
Oh,
if
we
I
get an interesting question in the chat from my buddy Robo Sardi. Hey,
could.
David, I would like to ask how you balance number of drawings for your sprite sheet. From my experience, too many drawings will bloat the load times and make your engineer mad. But too little drawing can also not be the best thing. I guess it's like trial and error.
Yeah, I think it's definitely just has to be trial and error. Um, I kept mine pretty basic. I started with just the run animation,
Uh-huh.
and I kind of set a gauge for how much um, I need to do. I also purposely set my animation work file to a lower frame rate, so it's animating at 8 frames per second. Um,
Yeah, this way you cannot just slide. Oh, I'm just gonna slide one frame drawing here, and no, you can't. It's
yeah,
always on
and
frame.
so it's it's been fun. I like animating at lower frame rates, like both for cinematic stuff too, and it kind of brings it back to like a little bit of storyboard work because you kind of do some rough keys when you work in storyboards as well.
Uh-huh.
And I always imagine it kind of like if somebody was filming you at a lower frame rate doing an action, like what would that look like if they were taking like
That's
5 pictures of your
essential.
movement versus a 24 frame, video recording. And it's been fun having to forcefully try to get into stronger key poses and clear ideas versus throwing a ton of frames at it. Now, given like whenever we get to clean up and color, then I'm going to start. This run cycle will be probably double the frame rate,
Of course.
because that's the thing that we're going to be staring at the most. Them running around. So let's see. This is the shooting down forward, up forward. Man, we have some crazy spreadsheets too. I can show you that.
I would love to see it.
Spreadsheet, so exciting. Where are you? Space anim sheet.
As a kid, I would love to go like on Google and Google to find like old spreadsheets of my favorite games. And it was so mind blowing to see
Let me
because
get
I
this.
knew early on the Mega Man spreadsheets were always available and we could always check them out. It was super interesting to see all these
Okay,
animations.
this might be easier to read now. Okay, yeah. So this is like kind of from an engineer. We basically have a checklist, but we have our character action, or the character, the action, the sub action, and then for our purposes, a direction, and then a frame count of how many frames that he's going to be looking for in regards to PNGs. And so right now we are on her running or walk forward. And this is labeled as run anims. I have highlighted shooting up forward. And then we can go to forward here. So let's have that run. So we got that. And we got this. So yeah, this would be her walk forward. Sorry, I think just run. Yeah, run, gun out, forward, right here. And that is 6 frames of animation that he's going to look out for. Um, so yeah, there's a lot, and I try my best to color code it. And now after we've sort of updated some of the design ideas, it's basically going to be cutting out like a ton of melee attacks and other things.
To keep the essential.
Yeah, keep it more streamlined. So the good thing is we get to keep all of these animations we already did. I just got to revisit a few of them. But yeah, this one is the peg system in Toon Boom is incredibly helpful. Obviously, I feel like some games definitely trying to keep this movement. I mean, ideally in a shooting game, you kind of want her hand here so that there's no bullet jitter whenever she's shooting, but it feels too stiff. So I'm trying to figure out a way where we can still keep the firing
But
sort
could
of
it
in
be
this
that
zone.
could it be that she jitters, but only that in the game engine you just put an anchor that doesn't jitter
Yeah,
on
yeah.
top
So
of the
I got to
edge,
find
right?
a balance between the feel of the balance, because if it was like 1-to-1, right, like then their bullets are going to be shooting up and down like this. But at a character around this size, you
It's just
have
gonna be so small on the screen.
exactly. And so like my idea was, like having it's like a big, you know, firing off VFX here and then just kind of shooting from this nebulous of this thick rectangle
Yeah, somewhere
somewhere in this
there.
area, as long as it feels and looks good. And then the same thing for shooting like in the different directions, like just trying to keep it all in the same area.
And Rebel Sardi is pretty happy with the answer. He wrote nod nod.
Not
So that's
nice.
good.
And so I can show you guys some like of the context of it.
Please
Let me see
do.
if I can find progress video. Let's see. Old one, old one. Oh man, it's so exciting.
It's so nice
Uh,
to show your our stuff too. to people. Like I love to see your game getting uh
Oh,
further
I
and
forgot I
further.
had crouch animations too. Yeah.
Really? Do show, do show.
Yeah.
I want to see everything.
This is like outdated now, but it's still basic. But yeah,
Still
so this is like
interesting.
all of what we were showing kind of in context, and she has like her crawling and shooting animation. Her movement speed is a little bit slower here, but we definitely sped it up. And so she has her locked animation there.
That's so cool.
It feels really nice seeing it all together. And then she has like this cool
Ah, it's
wall climbing.
beautiful. Oh man, I can't wait to play this. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Oh, that's so nice. I love it.
That
So
part is so
dynamic.
fun.
I mean, I love myself some double jump, wall grab. They're all my favorite things in a 2D platformer. Oh my god, I'm sold.
And so we're trying to see if we can get two folks playing at the same time. But yeah, we'll get to it when we get there. So now I think, what's the latest? Let me move this out of the way. Oh yeah, this one was pretty cool. So we have like our movement speed has been increased. Um,
Very dynamic.
oh, whoops, switch. And she
Oh,
has
she can
slides,
slide too.
so
That's so
she
good.
slides down, but there's
Oh,
like a movement glitch where her momentum keeps. So she has this really super long jump now from a downhill slide, which I'm like, is that a feature or a bug? Because she can't keep that.
because when you do that, then you have to think to make like the level so much bigger. So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah,
a
pretty
lot
much.
of things to take in mind.
Yep, exactly that. I think I
Making
have.
games ain't easy, kids.
No, no, not at
Takes
all.
me back.
Let me see if I can find a different one too.
I know for us, when I used to do the game I was working on, it was always the hardest thing just to get the feel right, like with the speed, with everything, because you always want to fine tune it to make it better, but then it comes with so many consequences.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
Now let's see. Put in. So we're going with a more, I guess, a faster movement. Ba-ba-bum. Save. Okay. So this one is it's gonna be this one was a challenge. So instead of her having like punching and kicking attacks, she's gonna have her ranged shooting attacks and
A
then a
little,
slash attack with like a knife. But
yeah, a
he
little
added in the
knife.
feature of her using it in multiple directions, so she can cut upwards and diagonal, um, and then she'll have a different movement and attack feature with sort of a blunt kick or like a dive kick, which will be intended to like knock back enemies for
And then
like
flying.
crowd control. Yeah, so like you can jump kick one guy into the other guy, and this is like what we were discussing the other night. So yeah, as far as like, oh yeah, you can see all the jumping and stuff. You can see it in context of like the different states, like the rising, falling, double jump is coming into play, and all the different aiming. So a lot of the visual animation hiccups that you think were hiccups like in the actual animation may not be in the actual game when you have
Mm-hmm.
it all playing together. And so it's good to keep those lines rough and thick. Like this is still that same line work from the work file that we were looking at, but because the character is so small on the screen, um, it looks almost like it's cleaned up, just a little sloppy. So I'm trying to decide like how fine I want the line work to be and how small the details are, which is it's a more challenging thing to figure out when you're not working in sprites. Where when you're working in sprite animation, you're basically
Yeah,
locked
that's why
into
I'm a fan
sprite
of
specs.
the, even though it's very technical and a bit cumbersome sometimes to use, I do love the pencil tool because then I can be like, I'll change the line size later. But it also comes
Yes,
with it not looking like a bitmap fully. But
exactly. Yeah, the pencil tool I need to use more for that reason, but I keep forgetting to because I like the brush tools so much.
I feel you.
brush ones are so good.
I'm glad you like them. Because in Harmony, the cool thing is that our dev team is so passionate, and like most of what caters around the drawing tools is done by usually this one guy, Francois. He's amazing, and he's so passionate about his drawing tools. So each time I hear people be happy about them, I always let him know, and he's super happy too. Because he's like, I cannot draw, but I can empower people to draw with cool tools,
Yep.
and he's always like thriving to make them better. And yeah, that's super cool. Oh my god, we already only have 10 minutes left. Time goes too fast.
I do.
Um,
I do.
is there anything very? Is there anything else you wanted to show?
Yeah. Let me see. I was looking up. I'm in the project work folder, which is also the comic stuff too. But I forgot I had started character model sheets
Ooh,
for
do
Maria
share.
and Pi, which it's attempting to load now. There it goes. Um, yeah, the cool thing about setting up the animation sort of model sheets in Toon Boom is that you have a palette that you can share with everyone. And so this is all drawn in Toon Boom. But because of that, oops, wrong button. Space, space, space. I swear, nothing wants to work on me now. Yeah, so I was able to get the model sheet together, but then you have like all your color palettes like ready to go
It's
here.
so nice to make adjustment too if you need, right?
Exactly.
Love it.
And if it goes into actual production for the game or the animation or anything that's involved, it's literally just an export of the color palette. Hand this over to like any folks that are going to be doing color in the production, and they have it all labeled, and then they can add their own too. I think the last animation production I was on, the color
Sometimes there's some
artist.
things missing, like souls
Exactly.
and little nick and buckles.
Yeah, so then he can do the updates on his color palette, and then I can take an export from his work file and update it into a different one, um, for a later
Beautiful.
shot. But yeah, that's been really good. And then for the game design stuff, so I definitely had that giant game design doc. Then I also have concepts for.
Oh, and I have to apologize on Twitch. I don't know why YouTube was fine, but the chat on Twitch was frozen. So I just rebooted the page, and there's so many questions.
Oh
So
no,
I might
yeah, ask
pick a
away.
few of them. Oh, that's beautiful. Love to see some background art and everything. Are you gonna also
Yeah,
provide the art for the background, or are you working with someone else?
no, for now I'm gonna do it. I think that's that's the other thing with the having the game in 2D is that I can anything art side I can handle, especially
Yeah.
early on, and then everything that's going to be on the engine side will be handled by the engineer. And we've been designing it together, so it's been a really fun collaborative effort. Um, but I still haven't installed Unreal, so I need to actually do that so I can start playing in it.
Okay.
Because that then it comes into like having to test your work and doing your own imports, and for it to be truly a collaborative effort, we have to be in the same work file. So right now we're still just building the prototype and trying to get sort of a pitch deck and idea together for publishing, funding, etc. And so yeah, you can see here like with the same grid system, like
Yeah,
kind of where I was trying to keep sort of how
that's
her
important to
footing will
have.
be, and then sort of an idea of like what a screenshot would look like possibly. So yeah, a
Mm-hmm.
nice like mock-up. But yeah, do you want to answer some questions or anything
Yeah,
to
so
me?
Matt Watts also asked, I know sometimes an animation will animate a character running across the screen, um, and then keyframe it to see to in place to see how it looks. And I guess that for games it would be the opposite, right? So I think what he's asking is how would you do you sometimes since your character is animated on space, like on the same place, do you sometimes
Mhm.
use a peg to see how it would look like when it runs across, or do you just trust the what the
Oh,
engine does?
I used to do that because it's exciting, setting it on a peg
Right?
to have it run
But
across.
then you waste time.
Yeah, but that's like the satisfying part, right?
It is.
I think the most that I've done now, I definitely stopped doing it here because it depends on who you're working with for with the engine side, or if you're doing it yourself. Because then the best thing you can do is work on the animation, throw it in your game engine,
And see how it
and
does.
then see how it feels. Whether you need to adjust the movement speed in engine or the animation speed, or just need new animations in general if your keyframes aren't feeling right. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely best to test early with roughs. Because I mean, like by in theory, like a game designer and engineer, they can build something with just moving squares, and you can essentially have something very primitive like that. But for the art side of things, you definitely, I don't know, it's weirdly magical. Like once the animation comes in, it starts to feel real. Once the sounds and music come in, then it feels really real.
Yeah,
And
can't wait to
even
see
though
it.
it's mathematically all the same movement and everything, it's just the visual and auditory feedback that I don't know, it's really crazy seeing it all come together.
But it's what it's like what people say. The music and the animation, well, the visual, each is 50-50. If
Hmm.
you have like playing a game with just the sound or playing a game with just the visual doesn't hit as good as with both of them combined.
Exactly.
Like I was playing a lot of Resident Evil this month because it's Halloween. It was
Yep.
Halloween, and I get spooked so easily. So not gonna lie, I was playing the remake of the second one, and I turned off the sound because I could not handle myself. And it's way less scary to see this big figure running after you without music.
You turn off the sound and then you like put it in windowed mode, so it's like only like a tiny window on your monitor now too.
Yeah, that too. um, we also had, I think, another question. Oh, I mean, I think it's a good question to end the stream on ish. Someone asked David, "What's your favorite video game of all time?"
Man, that's so
I'll say give
hard.
us like a top three, so it's easier to choose.
All right, if I was stranded on a desert island
Oh boy,
and I can only take like 3 or 5 games.
you can also go with series if you don't want to
Okay,
say a
okay, okay.
specific game. Let's make it less stressful and
For
anxiety
sure.
inducing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would have to play Hades is on there for sure.
Oh yeah,
Uh, Bloodborne is on there. The Metal Slug series, and then I'd probably choose like the Streets of Rage series for a beat 'em up because Streets of Rage
interesting.
4 was just really strong. I could play that over and over. What's another one? I need like an RPG in there too, like Final Fantasy series, I guess, for the
Oh,
fifth.
Final Fantasy Five.
No, because if I'm stuck on an island, I would say, "Oh, I'll play a fighting game." I was like, "What?" Fighting games are, I feel, are the most fun when you're playing with friends. And
That is
so,
true.
if I was by myself,
Teach it to the animals.
2D animals? Will I have 2D animals?
No, no, teach it to the animals on the
Oh
island.
God!
Make new friends.
Teach them to hop on the sticks and learn Street Fighter. Teach them about some perfect parries. That's crazy. Teaching a rabbit to play Tekken.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that would probably be it. I mean, like Bloodborne is like my favorite out of the whole Soulsborne series. So
You could have your time well spent playing these
yeah,
games.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If I was stuck on a stranded on an island, I'd probably just be working.
What?
And it's
Take a vacation. You could have like at least 3 days on the
it
beach or something. It's a stranded
sure,
island.
sure. I mean, and then I'm also thinking like it gets to a point at night where it's like, okay, it's after hours. I have a couple hours to myself. What will you do?
I'm
It's
gonna
like,
work on my project.
I'll work on my side project. There
Okay,
you go.
well that's me. I can relate. And then
And
my
then I
friends are like,
start
no, no,
hating
no, come
life
play games with
after
us, and then I do.
doing that for a few weeks. I start hating life. I'm like, I should have played more video games. It's
I mean,
all
it is a
everything's
nice
work.
way to take a break and have fun with friends.
Yeah. Which
Oh,
this
that's
has felt more like a break than work, to be honest. So
well,
I
I'm
mean,
glad
I
it
didn't
was
draw anything,
relaxing
so that was
enough.
pretty cool. Yeah, and we got to talk about the whole Space Maria project and it kind of fumbling around.
You'll have to tell
Um,
me more about it. I always just Love to listen to those.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the idea would be is to be able to like lock in on it. Hopefully at some point in 25, if and when
Ooh,
that kind of
exciting.
happens. But we'll see. Try not to get my hopes up. Um,
Maybe like a little, like the one little level, like a little demo thing, just to get it
oh
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that. That's what I want to get. We need to get that online too. This has been like the side project or
Ooh.
side project.
Oh.
So it's it's been a slow burn, but it's been very satisfying and yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have to do it, right? Like get to a point where
You just have to do it.
exactly.
Okay, last question, because I ask this to everybody who comes on this stream, because I think it's important for people to understand that you are more than your art.
Mm.
um, so what kind of other hobbies and stuff do you do besides like drawing?
Besides thinking about drawing and work and
Yes.
laying in the dark and thinking about work, well,
Come on,
definitely.
this is gonna be one thing.
No, well. So outside of all that, I got 3 kids, 2 dogs, married and or have the own responsibilities and obligations, and definitely my free time is spent trying to get in as much quality time with them, um, especially now around this holiday part of the year where we start having family and friends coming to visit.
Amazing.
But yeah, I mean,
In like sports or hobbies you like to do?
I like boxing. I do that. That's it, with the workload that I have. I think that exercise, no matter how light or heavy each day, has been something that helps keep
It
me
helps so much.
mentally and physically balanced. Just yeah, I mean, and that's just like me punching a heavy bag or
I
punching
mean,
the
it
air
feels
for 20
good. You need
minutes.
to get that energy out, right? And if
Yeah,
people are listening, you know what? Like, you don't need to do crazy sports. Like, just going out for a walk every few days is going to help you
exactly.
so much. You might
Which I
not
know you
notice it
do a
at
lot of
first.
walks, right? You take your dog out for walks like at the parks.
Yes, I do. I do my dog. I take my dog and my cat out. I do it
Your
more.
cat walks on a leash too.
Yeah. And I
I need to
love
see
to
more
take them
pictures
in
and
the
videos of
forest.
this.
Oh, I'll send you some. But yeah, it's so important because I do more sports in the winter
Mm.
because I don't know, like my knees are busted, so I don't I don't do
Your
much
knees get better
sport.
in the wintertime? That must be a
No, but
Canadian thing, huh?
no, it's like ice skating is easier than running.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay, that
because of
makes sense.
the contact, right? So snow is smoother than the ground. So I do love to do like I don't know how you call them in English, but it's like the big. They look like badminton, like or like tennis rackets. You put
Oh,
them on your foot.
like in the old Disney cartoons, right? Where it looks like they're walking on tennis rackets or something. I don't know what those are. We don't
Exactly.
have
I
those.
love to do that in the winter and ice skating. Summer for me is just swimming, but and walking, but like it's hard to swim every day. So yeah, but keep
Swimming
active, you
golf
guys.
carts.
Just a little walk every few days. If you can do it every day, goes a long way.
Yeah. Oh, I was
And
working on a model shoot too. Turn around.
oh, that's so cool. But yeah, thank you
All
so much for sharing. It was super interesting to see all those little behind the scenes and grids and layering and stuff. It was super interesting, and I am super grateful that you came over for the stream.
yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I hope it was informative for some folks to some degree, or if anything, just interesting seeing stuff that hasn't been fully shown to the public. So sorry, I was having issues with my
It
Wacom
happens.
drivers, so at
It
least
is not a
more
stream
showing
without
than telling.
issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you so much. And that's clear also for the stream chat. Everybody's just very happy, very grateful, and everybody had a good time. So that's super cool. And
Yay.
so my name is Marie-Ève. That was David. And we both wish you an amazing day. Yay!
Yeah, you guys
Goodbye.
have a good one. Thanks for hanging out and thanks for having me.